environment and adapt to any environment and be a chameleon. Right. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I got to go back to where I'm comfortable.
Records, we made a lot of money, but Suge Knight controlled it all. Everything was in his name. He distributed the money, he passed it out, he gave you what he felt you should.
We stand on the edge of a revelation so electric that the very foundations of hip-hop history feel as if they are trembling beneath our feet. For nearly 3 decades, we have whispered about the September night in Las Vegas, when Shakur's voice was silenced in a hail of gunfire. And for nearly 3 decades, we have consoled ourselves with the idea that maybe the truth was buried with him. But tonight, right here, right now, fresh investigators are prying open sealed files. New insiders are talking, and suddenly the rumor mill is roaring louder than a stadium speaker stack. We can almost hear that engine revving again on the strip, feel the desert air collide with adrenaline, and taste the metallic panic that still hangs over every unanswered question.
Keefe D named Diddy 77 times in court documents related to Tupac's.
We watch the story ignite anew with the shocking claim that Shakur's final ride was never a random ambush, but a concierge-level hit, ordered, funded, and choreographed by some of rap's most iconic players. Names we once printed on posters and chanted in clubs are now being murmured in backroom debriefings with the LAPD, the FBI, and a Nevada grand jury. We hear whispers of million-dollar bounties shuffled through nightclub shadows, of coded phone calls bouncing from coast to coast, and of loyalty turning to backstabbing paranoia faster than a platinum plaque can dent the Billboard charts. And we cannot pretend we are not spellbound by the idea that the man many consider the greatest poet of his generation might have foreseen every treacherous domino falling around him.
This grand jury has been receiving evidence for months and has determined there is sufficient evidence to justify the filing of this criminal indictment.
We lean closer as investigators hint they have uncovered forgotten surveillance tapes, reshuffled ballistic fragments, and long-buried witness statements pointing toward a conspiracy triangle linking 3 titans: Snoop Dogg, Diddy, and Suge Knight. We shudder at the suggestion that the friendly handshakes we saw on stage masked boardroom vendettas worth more than some entire record label. We feel the tension rise when insiders claim that days before the fatal convoy rolled down Flamingo Road, Shakur's circle had split into rival mini-factions, each one terrified the other might pull the trigger first, each one willing to do anything or say anything to survive the fallout.
Right now, Davis is fighting for bail ahead of his trial, which he has pleaded not.
We cannot tear our gaze away as the hook sinks in deeper. Could Snoop Dogg, beloved West Coast icon, laid-back poster child for palm trees and chronic clouds, have read the playbook before anyone else and quietly slipped out of the line of fire? Some say that his decision to dodge Suge Knight's black BMW that very night looks, in retrospect, less like a coincidence and more like a clairvoyant sidestep. Others go further, whispering that Snoop had already distanced himself from Shakur after an ill-timed radio interview in which he voiced unexpected warmth toward East Coast rivals Diddy and Biggie. We hear that Shakur erupted in fury, storming down hotel corridors and declaring he had been betrayed by a man he once called brother. And we wonder whether that single fracture in their friendship was the first thread tugged out of hip-hop's most volatile tapestry.
As if I was scared. Death Row looked at me as like a traitor. The next day,
we rewind to the tense hours before the Vegas fight, when Shakur allegedly insisted Snoop fly with him on the private jet, and Snoop suddenly claimed he needed to watch the gear instead. We picture the empty seat, the eerie silence between 2 men who used to pass studio blunts and finish each other's punchlines. We imagine the late-night voicemail Snoop is rumored to have received, an ominous tip that trouble was rolling in like a dust storm. And we ask ourselves whether he dropped his phone in disbelief or calmly scheduled a studio session far from the desert lights. Could he have been warned about the hit? Could he have traded secrets for safety? Was his astonishing longevity secured by a devil's bargain nobody wanted to believe existed?
I'm quite sure everything, I am death row. Suge Knight is death row. So I'm quite sure, before it's said and done, all eyes on me and Makaveli out of Fox have definitely come back to me.
We flip to Suge Knight's latest jailhouse tirades, broadcast from a concrete booth in San Diego, and we hear the booming baritone that once pushed death row artists to diamond status, now accusing Snoop of cold-blooded duplicity. You trying to create something that Suge Knight created, but instead of making something big, you disappointed the world by making everything flop, Suge declares, voice echoing off cinder block walls while guards pace outside. He sneers that Snoop destroyed the essence of death row, and hisses that paperwork for the label transfer is still missing. If Suge is simply bitter, why does his anger seem to sharpen whenever Shakur's name surfaces? Why does he keep insisting that Snoop tried to spring alleged gunman Keefe D from jail because the older gang figure was talking too much? From his cell, Suge paints Snoop as a smiling mastermind who cut secret deals with every faction, East and West, gang and corporate. then walked away unscathed while others bled legal fees and hospital bills.
You know, when it comes to rewriting history, it's some trying to rewrite history.
We chase that thread straight into the labyrinth of Diddy's current legal nightmare, because every investigator sniffing around the 1996 case can't help noticing how his recent racketeering indictment mirrors certain decades-old rumors. Court filings say former bad boy Lieutenant Kirk Burroughs now accuses Diddy of harboring an unchecked jealousy toward Shakur and of allegedly wiring millions of dollars to intermediaries to bankroll a done deal on the West Coast star. Another document unsealed in Las Vegas reveals that during a hush-hush 2009 interrogation, Keefe D told detectives Diddy offered millions to silence both Shakur and Suge Knight in one swoop. We gulp at the thought. If those claims are true, the same mogul now grappling with a federal trafficking probe could soon be staring down prosecutors armed with brand new witness statements, linking him to the most infamous slaying in pop culture history.
What makes you say you lost your empire because of Puffy? Why you say that?
We sift through the gossip haze and find even more combustible allegations. Industry veterans insist that a last-minute phone call pinged Diddy's private line just hours before Shakur's entourage rolled out of the MGM Grand. Some say Shakur himself placed that call, voice tight with suspicion, asking point-blank whether bad boy circles had greenlit a cross-country strike. Others claim the caller was Snoop Dogg, nervously hinting that the play is live and pressing Diddy for an off-the-record guarantee of protection. Either way, phone logs from that night have been subpoenaed again, and insiders swear the timestamps line up so perfectly they could shove both Snoop and Diddy into the blast radius of probable cause.
I think the best way to characterize that is Dwayne Davis was the shot caller for this group of individuals that committed this crime.
We peer into the darker corners of the story and find Suge Knight's own motives floating like daggers in the neon haze. Years of lawsuits, bankruptcy files, and sworn testimony reveal how deeply he feared losing Death Row's cash pipeline when Snoop's contracts grew tangled and Dre slipped through the back door. Some witnesses claim Suge kept Shakur close not just out of loyalty, but because Shakur's next album would rescue the label's hemorrhaging balance sheet. Was Suge's fury at Snoop's betrayal just business rage, or did he know that if both rivals vanished, one by fatal hit, one in jail, he could rebuild his empire uncontested?
Well, it's a cold case. It's been lingering for 27 years.
We cannot ignore the chilling symmetry of Suge surviving the Vegas attack with only superficial injuries, and later claiming the bullets were meant for him, not Shakur. We now learn he was already nursing bullet scars from a pre-VMA party just 2 years earlier, a night when he took 6 slugs yet still walked out on his own feet, grinning as if the Grim Reaper kept missing appointments. That prior shootout, once dismissed as random nightclub chaos, is now being re-examined by cold case analysts who suspect a rehearsal pattern. Same clubs, same circles, same suspects on security cameras. We find it uncanny that Suge can list every angle of that VMA attack, but says he saw nothing when Shakur was hit in the passenger seat. Nothing but bright flashes. Investigators are whispering that maybe Suge's memory is not cloudy, but selectively edited.
The fact that this indictment came down is a little hope, but we want justice for.
We scroll through 600 pages of interview transcripts and see Snoop's name penciled into more margins than we ever imagined. One jailhouse source claimed Ray J told Suge that Snoop openly bragged he was part of the bread put up to silence Shakur. Another file suggests Snoop was so rattled by the East-West feud that he flew home with concealed knives in his carry-on, convinced friendly faces might turn lethal mid-air. We see the paranoia infecting every hotel hallway, every video shoot barricade. We picture Snoop stepping onto a private jet alone, glancing over his shoulder at a vacant seat once reserved for Shakur, and wondering if survival meant burning a bridge so completely it would never be rebuilt. We dip into Diddy's present turmoil and find eerie echoes. Federal warrants allege his team kept over 1,000 bottles of baby oil in luxury suites for hush-hush, freak-off rendezvous, a detail that might sound like salacious excess, until we remember Suge Knight once warned that Diddy learned his tricks from people before him and perfected them on people after him. Could it be that the same underground network used to traffic adult companions and hush payments also moved those mystery cash bundles Keefe D says were destined for a hit squad? Agents are reportedly cross-matching hotel ledgers from the mid-90s with modern ledgers seized in the raids. If numbers match, the fallout could ricochet across every platinum plaque hung on Bad Boy's walls.
Any case that's 27 years old sometimes presents some challenges, but we feel very confident that the criminal justice system will work in this case.
We pace through recent headlines and find Suge Knight's bid to overturn his own 28-year sentence being denied by a judge who called his evidence not sincere. In response, Suge's lawyer blasts the ruling as shocking, hinting at systemic cover-ups and suppressed testimony. We suspect the prison walls do nothing to dim Suge's craving for relevance. Every time the reinvestigation gains traction, he picks up the phone, dials a podcast, and tosses fresh gasoline onto Snoop's name. Some say this is spite. Others believe Suge is nudging authorities to widen their probes so the blast zone embraces everyone who ever sat at the top table. Because if Suge burns, he wants everyone to burn with him. We keep circling back to the rumor that Shakur might still be alive, hiding on a sandy coastline under an alias. Because no twist is too wild for a case that keeps reinventing itself. New sightings surge whenever mainstream headlines revive the story. Grainy photos of a bald man in Cuba, shaky phone clips of a raspy voice in Malaysia, and cryptic social posts signed with the middle name Amaru. We roll our eyes until we read that a private pathologist has petitioned for access to the original autopsy photos, claiming the angle of a tattoo looks off by half an inch. It sounds insane, yet we have learned never to underestimate public appetite for resurrection or the lengths opportunists will go when a conspiracy theory might rack up billions of views.
So if I go to jail, you need to be handcuffed too.
We revisit the shattering moment when Snoop publicly endorsed Biggie and Diddy during a 1996 radio chat. What seemed like casual media banter detonated like dynamite inside Shakur's hotel suite. Witnesses recall Shakur pacing, fists clenched, muttering that loyalty meant nothing in a world where cameras never stopped rolling. Suge Knight tried to broker a studio mediation, but neither rapper showed, and the feud metastasized from lyrical jabs to real bullets. We can feel the mood turning darker with every diss track. Hit 'em up blares from car stereos, drop a gem on M fires back, and record store clerks start stocking up on body armor references. We realize hip-hop had become the gladiator arena of the 1990s, and promoters were cashing checks while rappers wrote wills. We sift through the paperwork of Death Row's sale and see Snoop's signature splashed across a bold announcement in 2022, but Suge Knight refuses to acknowledge its validity. He demands proof that money ever changed hands, hints at fraudulent shell companies, and vows that paperwork will expose everything. If the deed is bogus, is it because Snoop wanted the brand to pad his legacy, or because someone else wanted to keep the real ownership buried as evidence? And if the transfer is legitimate, why does Suge sound so certain it was orchestrated to hide old secrets behind new corporate umbrellas?
If I wouldn't have never met him, I wouldn't have never been involved in this. You know what I'm saying?
We examine the trial calendar and mark February 9, 2026, the day alleged gunman Keefe D is finally set to face a Nevada jury. Insiders say prosecutors plan to parade a star-studded witness list, retired detectives, former Bad Boy Road managers, one or two Hollywood figureheads who attended that MGM fight. But the name that scares defendants most, we hear, is a reluctant witness with first-hand knowledge of a West Coast studio meeting where cash envelopes changed hands. Some speculate that witness might be Snoop Dogg, compelled by subpoena and cornered by contradictions. Others suspect it could be Diddy himself, gambling on limited immunity to avoid harsher federal charges. We imagine every camera in the country crowding the courthouse steps as rap royalty, now graying and billionaire rich, is forced to revisit a night most of them have tried to erase from memory.
You know what I'm saying? That's just the law. You pull a gun, you use it.
We cannot shake the unease that none of these power players truly want the full truth revealed. A solved case means book deals, documentaries, maybe even closure for Shakur's mother's estate. But it also means reputations shredded, streaming catalogs boycotted, and corporate sponsorships vaporized. We sense that for some executives, the ideal outcome is perpetual mystery, enough drama to keep catalog sales humming, not enough clarity to wreck legacy tours. That is why every new leak sparks both viral headlines and frantic damage control. Publicists scramble, lawyers threaten litigation, and artists post cryptic social media emojis that vanish 20 minutes later. We glance at the financial stakes and realize why millions of dollars for a hit might have seemed like petty cash to label bosses who expected to bank tens of millions of dollars on one superstar album. We remember that money, loyalty, and vengeance were interchangeable currencies in the boom years of compact discs. If Shakur lived, death row soared. If he passed, insurance policies and catalog surges still kept the registers ringing. The morality of it all feels nauseating, yet the numbers remain undeniable. We wonder how many boardroom graphs featured Shakur's face with color-coded profit projections for every scenario, including the unthinkable.
So we made the business decision to be cool with each other, because I don't hate him, and he don't hate me.
We sit with the unsettling suggestion that the reinvestigation could prove everyone a villain and everyone a victim. Perhaps Snoop warned Shakur but was ignored. Perhaps Diddy financed protection that spiraled out of control. Perhaps Suge Knight knew a threat was coming but miscalculated the fallout. The deeper we dig, the more the story warps into a Greek tragedy where loyalty, envy, and ambition lock horns until no one can remember why the first punch was thrown. And through it all, Shakur's music keeps blasting from Bluetooth speakers worldwide, his voice prophetic as ever. Is a future for a gangster? We are starting to suspect he already knew the answer. We feel the temperature drop as we approach the present moment, because the reinvestigation is nowhere near finished. Detectives are still crisscrossing the country, flipping through flight manifests, drilling new holes in old alibis, and warning publicists that sealed indictments can land without a press release. We hear that grand jury subpoenas have reached as far as luxury car dealerships in Beverly Hills and pediatric clinics in Queens, because one witness's address led to a relative, which led to financial statements, which led to an offshore account, which led back to a certain 6'4" executive serving time in San Diego. The web is tightening faster than some icons can scrub their social feeds or shift assets overseas.
I ride like this the whole flight, hoping one of them come with me so I can stab out everybody on this mother.
We close in on the most tantalizing rumor of all, that certain investigators have secretly floated immunity deals to both Snoop and Diddy, inviting them to testify against each other. If that is true, the chessboard is about to explode. Imagine Snoop taking the stand to outline the precise sum he says Diddy pledged for a hit. Then Diddy countering with receipts, alleging Snoop greenlit the plan via intermediaries. Imagine Suge Knight watching from a video feed, grinning like a man who set the whole chain reaction in motion decades earlier. And imagine the jurors, some barely born, when All Eyes on Me dropped, trying to untangle fact from legend without humming along to the very tracks that turned courtroom defendants into global megastars.
This is a 5.5-hour flight. Don't nobody say one word to me. Not one word. Just having conversations and doing all kinds of things, saying nothing to me.
We pause, drawing breath, recognizing that each revelation feels less like a clue and more like a spark on dry brush. The cultural stakes dwarf any single verdict. We have already seen fans scrap tattoos, streaming numbers plunge overnight, and long-planned biopics stall because a single document leak changed the perception of who was hero and who was villain. Sponsors are placing morality clauses in tour contracts. Playlists are quietly resorted, and brand managers are whispering that soon it may be riskier to book a classic hip-hop headliner than a fire-breathing circus act. The irony is brutal. The very legends who once bragged about riding on 22-inch rims now lie awake at night praying their past rims do not ride over them. We step back and survey the carnage, shattered friendships, collapsed empires, iconic labels reduced to nostalgia brands, and a generation of artists who inherited not just platinum chains but a blueprint for paranoia. And looming above it all is the spectral silhouette of Shakur, charismatic, flawed, visionary, still dictating headlines from beyond the grave, still forcing the industry to confront its own reflection. We realize there may never be an outcome that satisfies everyone. The truth, when fully exposed, could feel uglier than any rumor and more tragic than any rap verse.
He's 3 law firms on retainer. I don't know how much money is coming in, but I know that a lot of money is going out every single month for Diddy.
We must face it, the reinvestigation engine is revving. Names are about to be etched into court dockets, and the next few months could rewrite the footnotes beneath every West Coast anthem and bad boy classic. Our only certainty is that the past refuses to stay buried, and when the walls finally crack, the echo will rattle turntables from Compton to Brooklyn. We draw the curtain on tonight's saga with a final gut punch realization. The deeper we chase the truth, the more the line blurs between protector and predator, brother and betrayer, legend and cautionary tale. So we leave you with this. If the full conspiracy is exposed, will hip-hop's empire stand taller for finally confronting its shadows, or will the revelations shatter the foundations we all dance upon? Let that question spark the comment storm while we sign off with pounding hearts and restless minds. Until next time, stay alert, stay loud, and never, ever look away.